the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Welcome back to what I am hoping, I am confident, I am mostly assured will be the final week, the all good things of the Enterprise build. Week 11, big week 11, and I think we're going to be done this week. And then once I'm done and everything is settled, I think I'll sit down and do a post-mortem on this kit, because you can't spend 11 weeks on something and not form some opinions and you know, get a little bit emotionally involved in the thing. This wasn't a quick, you know, one week off, you know, 1 week Bandai build. This one was a labor. This is New Year's Eve day. This is the day before the last day of 2018, and we cannot get out of 2018 fast enough for my taste. I did a quick check, just going back through the videos to see how many kits I built this year, not counting the 11 weeks on the D because it's not finished inside the calendar year, but you know, also taking into account things that I was working on in January, first week of January, that I didn't finish last year but finished this year, and I come up with an astonishing 26 kits. 26 kits I got done this year. I need to slow down. I need to take my time. But you know, a lot of those were, I counted quick Bandai one-off, 1 week builds. Back when I was making 3 creatures at a time, those all count as individual kits. So 26 is not a bad completion rate. And 2019, leading up into 2019, I've got some big doings ahead of me. I got a Katinga. I got to finish the D. The Katinga. The 2001 one-man pod, those are just the 3 right off the bat, and it's only going to get better from there. So enough of this jabbering. Let's get back to finishing the Enterprise, and like I say, all good things. Let's do it. I am starting by taking a side trip, taking a little bit of a break from the actual kit, because I need to work on the stand here and have the ship have a place to go once it's done. And you know me, I like to find a quick and easy and a cheap solution for something. I was scouring Walmart. Now this may not be applicable to you, A, if you don't have a Walmart near you, and B, if they're already sold out, because I realize this doesn't go up for another week. This report won't go up for another 5 days, but the Walmart near me, it was selling these for unbelievable $4.88 a piece. They are at 6 feet. Well, it's basically this. It is a remote control, wireless remote board, and it is 6.5 feet of LED strip that you can choose any of these color combinations or set up, you know, some of these effects to work to fade in and out. That, to me, my friends, is an unbeatable deal. Now, you may not want to put that in your Starship exactly that way, but it certainly works for a base. And what I'm going to use mine for, or one of them, because I bought a good meaty handful of them, because, you know, you just can't pass up a bargain like that. And if I go back, every time I go back from now until they're gone, I'll probably pick up another one, just to have. But here is the light. See, there's a light. It's clear white plexiglass with vinyl logo on top. Looks like that from the inside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a string here, because what I'm aiming for is this aqua color of LEDs. The light blue or the teal color LEDs, which are kind of tough to get in a strip by themselves, but you use the color changing thing and it's beautiful. But it's also meant to run on USB. It's 4.5 volts, meant to plug into the back of a television, into a USB port on your television, to, you know, give you a lighting effect. That's how they sell it. LED strip to backlight your TV or your PC monitor. Okay, but like I said, it's 6.5 feet of it. So I'm not going to use all of this, but what I don't use, I can certainly, you know, I don't know how much color control I'll have over it, but you know, I'll cut off what I don't need, and you know, for $5, if I don't use it ever again, I'll throw it away, Go ahead, for goodness sake. But it's 4.5 volts, 5-volt type of deal. And I've got 9 volts coming into the stand. That is the one jack that I've got into the back. So how do I retrofit this? Well, I've got 9 volts coming into the stand that have to go up to the ship because it's powered off of 9 volts. The LED strip needs to be reduced. Well, the cheapest, maybe not the cheapest, but the quickest and easiest way for me would be to use one of these deals. And this was another $2 or $3. This is a USB adapter you plug in your cigarette lighter. Well, again, because a lot of the stuff I get is at, you know, car lighting places, this is 9 to 12 volts. So all I need to do is take this wire here, or, you know, solder a wire here, solder a wire here, and that gives me my 9 volts in, and there's the step down guts are in there, and then I plug this strip into here, and Bob's your uncle, I've got power. So let me show you how easy that is to work. Okay, so there you go. I've got the, I'm holding the wire here because the alligator clip doesn't have enough room to grab onto, but running power out to the plug, and there you go, teal lighting, and I can lay that inside there and everybody's happy. So now all I need to do is to physically affix these things together. Okay, I've just taken the casing off of the car adapter, and I'm down to, here's the negative, here's the positive. So I got to solder a wire on each one of those, join it up to my 9-volt power, and I am good to go. And there you go. This is the fading through everything. One of the effects. I don't have to keep this. This is the, let me find the right one here. That's the color I want to keep it. But if I wanted to, I could fade it through, excuse me, fade it through all these color changes and it would look just as sweet. So what I need to do now is just go back in and neaten everything down. I'm going to hot glue the strip in place because the weakest part of any LED strip is adhesive on the back. That stuff never stays where you want it. So it's best to just take it out and re-glue it down. But I've got, see if I can pull this up. Hold the phone. Hold on one second. See, now you can see the strips lined. All I need to do now is just run some hot glue or maybe some CA. Probably hot glue might be better. Just around these strips to hold them in place and to hold the wiring down. But this is the sensor that I need to be able to get to, so I'm going to tape it out here somewhere in the center so that I can always hit it with the remote when I need to. So, okay, as far as the leftover pieces, I hesitate to call them scrap because they are very useful. The leftover strip, I can make any combination here. Now it's got 4 connections on it, a common positive, and then an R, a green, a red, and a blue. And if I do just the blue, then I can make a blue strip. If I cross the blue and the red, I can make a purple strip. If I cross the red and the green, I can make a yellow strip. I can make a completely green strip, a completely red strip, or a completely blue strip, depending on which leads I attach. So yes, there will be the remaining bits of this could be very useful, even if I just do a straight blue for nacelles in the near future. I will have plenty of leftover blue strips. So lovely, lovely. And there she is sitting on her base. I've got a light leak under here to take care of. I don't like that. Don't know the best way to take care of it other than just, you know, putting some sort of caulking or something around the bottom there, which I don't know if that's what I want to do. But the base is on its place. I can even change the colors of that if I want. And of course all this is done with the remote. And then we have, oh, and now's a good time to bring this up. Yeah, I lost this. There's supposed to be a strobe right here. It don't work. If you go back and check the last video, you'll see the last time that the thing was working, and it must have gotten pinched when I was closing up the saucer. And I got to tell you, I'm not heartbroken about it. yes, I put a lot of work into getting that strobe, and it was a last minute addition, and it's, you know, one of the functions that should be there, but I'm ultimately not heartbroken about it because it was very bright. And it was also kind of a distraction from looking at the windows and the saucer and all, and the phasers and all that. So while I'm sad that it's not there, I am not heartbroken. I've got 3 going on back there, and I've got the back of the belly one here. I just need to clean that off, take an X-Acto and scrape the paint off of that. But let's see if I can get the my biggest fear was I was going to end up putting so much metal inside this that the remote was going to be interfered with, but it seems to work just fine. I just need to kind of like hold it down and you know, baby it a little bit. You can see the impulse engines are in. Got some work to do around here body work wise. I put a little putty in there to fill in that crack, and I still have to attach these guys in place, and that'll be let's see, what time is it? Oh, it's a little after about 2:30 today, so I certainly could do that today, but I think what I want to do is pull this back up off the base. Now that I know it works, I want a minimum number of times that I have to go through that, because really it's a 2-person job. And let's see if I can get the window lights to come on. Come on, it's a 2 first. There you go. To get I just have to get it's the double click thing, and I got to get the double click speed right. I've pretty much decided that what I want to do for these windows here is put the black vinyl back over top of the windows to block those out. When I was puttying in around these impulse engines, I also puttied this crack here, so I need to touch that up with some paint, get that cleaned up. Lot of paint touch up to go first, but like I said, I believe I want to put the decals down, at least the phaser, the transporter emitters and the lifeboats. Get those down. Maybe not put the pennant markings on until the other things are done, but let's get those taken care of and down. I still have a blue million of these guys to wheedle out, and I still need to fill in and paint the strip around the saucer and around the secondary hull here. So I have every goal, every promise of getting this thing done this week, but it might take a little longer than I am allowing for it. So we'll have to see how well it goes. Again, close this over with some JB weld in that joint there, and I might end up closing over those windows, although I can't because 10 forward is right there, and I really want 10 forward's lights to show up. So now that we got the base done, and now that we know that it sits on the base properly, it's time to take it back up off the base and start to do the serious work at hand. But I'm going to enjoy it on its base for a little while because it was tough getting there. Oh, let me take a minute or two to talk about the deflector. Deflector is not glued in yet, so easy to see what's going on there. I did not paint the back of it. I mean, it's basically clear. I painted a little bit of clear blue on that flat panel, but there are two big 5mm blue LEDs behind that. You can see the area here that has not been painted at all, and I'm going to maybe do a little bit more hand brushing on that because you can't paint everything with an airbrush. And then this is an orange paint that I painted the same color I painted the saucer dish with, the sensor dish. I did not paint the back of the sensor dish, so that allows that blue light to come out through it. It was going to be almost nigh on impossible to try to light block that oval from the back. So I chose just not to paint it at all, and you don't even really notice that because you get a good coat of paint on it, and it blocks the light the way it's supposed to, but lets the blue light shine out from behind it. So all I need to do now is put another coat of orange here maybe a little bit, mix in a little bit more yellow in with it, make it more yellowy orange, and paint this area again, and maybe feather it in just a little bit closer to that back wall. But it's looking pretty good, I think. And the camera is running low on battery, so I need to plug it up and charge it. That's better. Continuing the hand painting work on the Galaxy class now that it's off of the stand. And I noticed in the auction pictures that the deflector dish housing, or this area right in here, was slightly yellower than the actual dish. And I don't know how much you could tell the difference there, but this area is a shade or two yellower than the actual dish, and I'm just doing that by hand using some of my old famous polyscale paints that I have left. Polyscale paints are nice because they are fairly thick and give good coverage. And like I say, I'm just painting this in by hand, and I'll come back over once more and do that. You'll notice that there's a area in here that has no paint on it, and then we're back into the area that's got the clear blue. To me, a clear blue on it. See if I can get a better light source in. There you go. And I just basically put the early on. I put the sensor dish in place and kind of traced around it so that you could see what the perimeter was. And that's kind of where I'm stopping the paint. A little bit of overlap, but I'm just feathering this out to nothing. And then it gets thicker and stronger the further out you get. So I'm going to let that dry and then come back and do another coat on it. But I need to get some yellow on this because those coils there are a lot yellower than I've got them painted here. Okay, I think I found a good stopping point for tonight. Got a lot of work done on the base, not so much on this, but I've done some more touching up. It's the kind of stuff, like I said, it's incrementally small, and you may not notice it, except for the fact that it's a little bit cleaner than it used to be. So, let this sit overnight, come back, hit it with a clear coat, a clear gloss coat, so that I can start putting down all of these Lifeboat decals. That's going to be job one for tomorrow, is Lifeboat decals. All of tomorrow, I'm going to do the whole bottom. And I'll tell you what, probably do the Lifeboats and then these phaser transport emitter pads. And if I can't move it, then I guess the only thing left would be to put some of the pennant markings on the bottom. Better to do that and then let that set overnight than to try to jimmy it back and forth to go, top, bottom. Best to let it all seal in good. So I think that's the plan of attack. Now I went in and neatened up some of the copper here, painted those a little bit yellower. Like I said, tiny stuff you might not notice unless you know to look for it. Well, good morning and happy 2019. It is quiet on New Year's Day here at the Aztek Dummy Labs. And so we are starting on Lifeboats today. Now I have much to say about these Lifeboats. First of all, despite what you might think, these Lifeboats are not square. They are trapezoidal. So there is a definite top and bottom to the decals. And it is that the red bit of the decal faces inwards. It's on the narrow end. So if that's easier for you to remember, it's the little bit that's got a tiny bit of... Where is it? Where's my finger? Gotta find... Okay, zoom out. That might be easy. There you go. If it's got a little bit of red on it... Focus. There you go. That goes towards the inside. The number goes towards the outside. And Don, I appreciate you putting different numbers on all these, but if you think for 1 second that I am going to try to match up these numbers in any sort of sequential order, you are sadly mistaken. You could have put the same 080 on all these, and I don't think anybody would have noticed. But that's a mark of how professional you are. You actually put different numbers on each of the Lifeboats. But in my case, it was for naught. And secondly, or thirdly or fourthly, I don't know what point I'm on right now. These all have to be trimmed out because this is a garage kit, even garage kit decal. And even though it's excellently printed and very well coated with having a white coat on it so as to not have to worry about the Aztecing coming up through, they all have to be cut out individually. And how close you come, or how close you cut to the actual decal, is a matter of your own personal preference. I imagine decals being, you know, the type of decals I grew up with, where the carrier layer is, you know, maybe a 16th or a 32nd outside of the design. And when I trim my decal, my aftermarket decals, I kind of do the same. So I trim it with that much carrier film. But that means you may want to think about this when you're putting your decals down, say on a strip like this, that you may want to go every other one and then come back later and fill in the ones in between so that you're not bumping. You put one down here, and then when you put this one down, you might bump this one or have to overlap the carrier film on either one of them. So I'm going to do every other one and then come back and then do the one next to it. Like I said, I'm not concerned about the numbers on the hatches, so that's going to be the easiest thing to do. And thirdly and fourthly, I gave this thing a real good gloss coating last night, so I would make a good surface to put these decals down on, and it did something really neat. It kind of melted the layer of top paint into the windowsills, and it really cleaned up those window frames. I mean, these were the best window frames to start with, so I don't know how well it's going to do it on the bottom, you know, on the top or other parts of the ship, but it really cleaned up the windowsills to have, and it also darkened these windows by putting the gloss coat on it, because if you scratch it, it tends to haze them up when you're scratching them out. And well, let's go over here and look. It really darkened up those windows nicely. So that's also a neat side effect. But we're back to this is going to be long and it's going to be tedious and it's not going to be fun, but it's all stuff that needs to get done. So let's put down some lifeboats. Okay, so the lifeboats are going down, and I realized the only way to do this with any sort of practicality is to do an assembly line. So what I've done is I've just started cutting them up, making the pile of cut up lifeboats. First I cut them off of the sheet, and then I cut them into strips, and then I cut the carrier film out from between them. And then what I can do then, how many thens can you put in a sentence? And then what I do is just drop them down every other place, and then go back and blot them. But these are laying down really nicely. Kudos to the production on these. I'm not really wild about the color of these guys, of the transport emitter strips, but you know, you go back and look at the pictures and they're pretty dead on. So what are you going to do about it? But these guys, it's just going to be taking forever to do it if I did them one by one. So you got to mass produce them. You got to do them in the gang. So my little fingers have gotten numb from dealing with these tiny scissors. So I'm going to give my fingers a break and come back to it in a second or two. Okay, I think I may be getting too old for this. This has taken me at least a couple of hours to do all of this. And I've got some more cut ready to go, but I'm going to let these guys dry because I don't really want to have a cascade effect if I start bumping into one, putting one next to it, and it loosens the next one up. So it's a good space. It's a good place to stop for a second, catch my breath. Okay, continuing with the lifeboats, that's all I've got from the ones I've got cut out. So now I need to sit down and cut out a bunch more and get ready for the next groupings. Okay, I spent a good chunk of today on this, and I am literally at the halfway point. Every one of these groups, I've done half of them. I've got that much more to go to fill in the gaps in between them. And I went back in here and put the ones on the secondary hull as well. But man, that's taken all day to do this. Whew. I mean, it's not hard. The
decals are, you know how I love decals. The decals are in excellent shape, and they're excellently printed, and they go down very easily, and they don't tear, and they don't give you no muss or no fuss. But it's just tedious work to put all these guys down. So I'm going to take a eye strain break and then go back and attack them again. Okay, I broke tradition and bowed to pressure, and because I wanted to see something pretty, I put that bottom belly decal on. Continuing to work with the Lifeboats, but I wanted to see that belly decal. And a little bit of microset over top of it really makes the carrier film disappear. Really happy with that. May have to put that in the airbrush and just spray the rest of the model to cover all of these Lifeboats. But yeah, I need to get up and take another walk. I'm hoping I'll get this much finished tonight, because I want it to be drying overnight so that I can flip it in the morning. But it may be the death of me to get that done tonight. We'll see. And well, here we go. It's the saucer is done. It is about 5 o'clock. Started about 9 this morning, so it's about a good, decent 9 to 5 job. Now I didn't spend every waking second on it. I did take breaks here and there, but here you go. This is a time-consuming job, and if you take your time, you get some nice results, because I am looking. I do not see that I have put any of them on upside down. I think I kept them all straight. I think I keep them all very nicely lined up, and that's because of how very nicely the saucer was cast. The Lifeboats that are cast into the top or into the surface of the saucer are very nice and distinct, and have a nice, beautiful raised edge, which lets the decal sit on them just perfectly. And you know my checkered history with decals, I have to say these ones were champs. These ones were beautiful decals. They laid down beautifully. They didn't tear. They don't. They could take a little bit of tugging before they give you any problems. They didn't crack. They didn't do anything. They were beautiful. So I'm going to take a break. I think tonight, before all is said and done, I'm going to come back and put the rest of the bottom of the ship decals down, only because I want to be able to seal this and flip it over and do the top tomorrow. Okay, I couldn't resist one last showy bit for the evening before I closed it out. So got the big number down on front. Now we let it dry. Good morning and welcome back, and I can see by the clock on the wall that it is Wednesday, the 2nd of January, and we're going to do some fun work today. We're going to put the Lifeboats down on the saucer. I've already got the little transporter pads put down, and I think it's going to go a lot quicker than it went yesterday. I just have that feeling. I learned a rhythm of how to put them down repeatedly, you know, doing well, good morning and welcome back. It is, the clock on the wall says it is Wednesday, the 2nd of January, and we're going to do some fun work today. We're going to do the Lifeboats on the top of the saucer. I don't think it'll take near as long as yesterday's, only because I think I've learned a good rhythm and a method of putting them down. And I don't think there's as many. There's this many to go. It looks daunting here, but they actually go pretty quickly if you get into the rhythm. So that's what we're going to do. And then we are going to start the long and tedious touching up of paint, because there really is not much else to do. We've got to put the rest of the decals down, but I mean, I want to put the Lifeboats on, do the paint touch up, do the window touch up, and then go back and put the markings on, the names and the stripes and things like that, that might go over or around areas that we are going to be touching up. I don't think we'll be doing a lot of touching up where the Lifeboats are going to go, so that's not in any hazard. And actually the Lifeboats might cover up some errors. So let's get on with that. I've got these two back transporter pads put down. I need to do the two that are up here, and then we'll just be in Lifeboat City. Alrighty then, let's get started. I've got enough Lifeboats cut apart to to get started. Certainly not enough, not all of them. I expect to have to cut up every one I've got left, but that would just make a big pile. So let's get started with this one and do like we did yesterday, where we put a beginning round in, and then we'll go back and fill in the holes. Okay, all of the decals for the lifeboats are on the top of the saucer, and I put an asterisk next to that. All of the decals save 2, because there are exactly as many lifeboat decals as there are lifeboats, and I messed up one. So there's no decal for it. So rather than having one stick out like a sore thumb, I decided to leave 2 off in a symmetrical fashion so that it would look like a part of a consistent pattern. So Don, if you're listening, I know you've probably got your first run of decals done, but if you ever do a second run of decals for this kit, you might want to consider just throwing in a couple of extra lifeboat decals. I know you went to the trouble of numbering them all, and like I said, I was not going to try to attempt to make any sort of numbered lifeboats where, you know, O1 was next to O2 and that kind of stuff. If you are a model maker who puts that level of detail into your kits, God bless you, but it's not for me. So I know they would have to be a fake number, or I don't care, make them 000. People won't notice. But I plead with you, I beseech you, throw in a couple of extra. I know you had some extra real estate on that first sheet of decals that it wouldn't have cost you much. I don't think, other than an ink, you could have put a couple more on that sheet and gotten away with it. So consider it. Consider it a humble plea to throw in some extra lifeboats. And that's going to do for the top of the saucer. I'm going to let all that dry for a good long while, and I'm going to go around and pick at some windows for a while. And I think the next thing to do is going to be to hit some of the decals that need to go on the back here now. Okay, it's getting late in the day, and I just spent the last half an hour wrestling with that decal to get it in place and untwisted. It kind of twisted up, and nothing worse than twisted red pinstripes. Boy, say that 5 times at the end of the day. Twisted red pinstripes. So I think the last thing I'm going to do is these big showy ones on the tops of the nacelles, and then we're going to call it a day. Okay, it's been another long, fruitful day of decaling. I'm calling it a decaling decathlon. But I'm also done for the day on this and many other things. I got the nacelle pennants on. I've got the spinal strip done. That and finishing up the lifeboats was enough of a job for one day, I gotta tell you. It's very ice strainy. Oh, I also got these little thruster covers on. So, and last thing I did, you didn't see, I went ahead and I installed the impulse engines covers. Just glued those on and put a little bit of tulip around the top edge. Paint over that tomorrow, and check when I flip it over on its top, I can check the gap on the bottom of those pieces to see how much I need to fill those in. But yeah, it's coming along nicely. It's today's Wednesday. Got 2 more days on it. I think 2 more days is going to do it. Hopefully, still on track to finish. I've got a lot of work to do on the perimeter of the saucer. I need to fill that in with the JB weld to light block it, and then paint over top of that. I've got decals that go around the perimeter of the saucer. I've got obviously the main registry, which I think I might save till last as a ceremonial thing. And then I've got a lot of windows to clean up. So yeah, there's work to be done. I will put both days into it. I really don't want to carry this over for another week. So I am dreadfully intending to get this done this week. Good morning, it's Thursday and we're back to basics today. We're back to the base. I want to get this guy finished up, and then I can go grab the ship from the other room and bring it back in. It's good to take a break from one thing every once in a while to go back to something else. It keeps the fingers nimble and the mind sharp, and I could use both of these right now. Two things that have to happen on this base before it's done. Three things, really. The easiest one is I got to touch up that black paint where I scratched it off, tightening up the joint there. I should have used a rag over top of the wrench, but I didn't, and so therefore I have to touch the black paint up. Secondly, I need to let me grab a tool here. I need to secure this clear base, the clear overhead panel here, to the rest of the base. But most importantly, before I do that, I need to anchor this guy down. And I think what I'm going to do is pack it with a little bit of epoxy sculpt from the inside so that you don't see any sort of mechanical connection on the outside. I can't really pick it up to glue it and set it back down. Everything is kind of in place where it needs to be. So the best thing for me to do now, I need to leave this out because this is where the sensor is for the remote. So that needs to kind of be out in plain sight, as it were, at least plain sight of the remote. But I need to make sure the wire or the tape is nice and secure, because I'm not going to be able to get back in here once I close it up. For some reason, it wants to. It's the weird double stick that's on the back of these. It's double stick on the back of LED strip is never as secure as you'd like it to be. So I think I might have to go in with some adhesive and really glue it down. And then I'm going to pack it with, or at least spot tack it with some epoxy sculpt to get it tacked in place so that it doesn't move around. And then I can put this piece back down and kind of seal up the edges on it to make it secure, and it'll be done. Then I can move this off of the table and pull the ship back in. I have a scant few decals left to put on. I really want to get a flat coat on the top of that saucer because right now it's hideous with that gloss coat. It makes it look like a toy. I can barely stand to look at it. But there's a lot of work that needs done on the underside of the ship, and that's, I think, what's going to be one of the main goals for today. So now that I've got the day all mapped out, let's see how much of it actually happens. Well, I've got the epoxy sculpt kind of jammed in here and holding the base down, and I sculpted it a bit. It's in the name, epoxy sculpt. I sculpted in a bit of a cleaner edge here to set the overlay in, and I'm going to let that set up, because that's the one downside of epoxy sculpt is when you have exactly no patience like I do, and you want to rush through everything. Epoxy sculpt does take its sweet time at setting up, but it gives you a good strong seal when it does. So I'm going to set this aside and pull the ship back out of dry dock and get ready to have some more fun with it. Okay, in the annals of slow and tedious, this is certainly the champ. Basically going through and scratching open all of these saucer rim windows on the underside of the saucer, which I still love the best. I got to tell you, and I love the flat coat. The top coat gloss is bugging me because it just offends me, and I need to flat coat it. But I want to make sure all the decals are down before I do that. Doing some sculpting work around those impulse engines to get those to sit in just right, and then I'll paint over that. These windows here are so gorgeous, I don't need to touch them. These are beautiful. And the lifeboats have all dried in from a couple of days ago, and I put a flat coat over that to seal those in. I need to work on the bottom here and get myself happy with all of that. Make sure I have all of the decals on that I'm going to put on. There is a side decal here of the name or the number, and some little touchy touch decals that I need to put on. There's a little red stripe there, but I need to touch up that yellow paint or the area behind the yellow paint because it is sloppy and I don't like it. But I'm just going around here. Now, last night I did start the work here. I got as far as a little bit out to here on putting the JB weld in the gully here, in the seam between the two parts. Only because this thing is so god awfully awkward to stand on its top and work on it, because I kind of have to cradle it in one arm and work on it with the other. I have no real good stand for it anymore. I need to see if I can recreate that original upright stand. That might be the best bet. Let me see if I can do that. I may not have the parts here anymore to do that, but let's find out. Okay, backing up, but yeah, I was able to recreate that original stand. And you know, actually that would make a nice wall mounted plaque if I were to do it that way. I mount this thing on the wall with a ton of a crap load of anchor bolts going straight into as much of a wooden wall as I could get, because this is heavy. I need to get some scales out and sit this thing on it when we're all done. But yeah, you can really see the sleek lines of it when you do it this way. You were right, Elliot, as usual. But now I can get into places like the neck and start really cleaning up some stuff. But here you can see what I've started last night, which was to put in the JB weld inside the saucer halves to stop that light leak that's going to happen. But yeah, I like that stand. That's nice. I have to be very careful though. I'm going to wrap this with tape or something to keep it from twisting, because if it were to twist, all kinds of horrible things would ensue. Like it falling over. That's not good. Okay, it's a little tough to see, maybe. I'm not going to do that. But what I've done is I just laid a layer of tulip slick into the parting line here between the two pieces of saucer, and hopefully that will be enough. I liked it better. It seemed to be more easy to work with than using the JB weld. Easier to self-level and easier to clean up when it went astray. So we're going to see how well that dries. And while I'm at it, I'm also going in and cleaning up parts of the neck that have been trashed by me picking it up, because right now the neck is the easiest place to handle the ship. And unfortunately, if you do that without cleaning your hands every time, you get a messy ship. And that's almost ready to glue back in. Cleaning up, I did clean up the top of that, the sloppiness of the yellow. I need to do the same on the back end, or on the back of the front piece. I don't know exactly how I'm going to be able to do that. I'll have to see whether or not I can lay this down on its side and prop it sufficiently to work on it that way. But you know, with the lights off of it like this, that is closer to the color that I'm looking at, what you see on camera. It's awfully blue in real life, but you know, that's the things you think about, because when you put stage lighting on something that is blue like this, it washes it out and it turns it to grays and whites, which is how we all remember seeing it on television. So I'm struggling between the perception versus reality aspect of the paint, but need to walk away for a bit because I'm getting a bit stir crazy with chipping out all those windows. Okay, the tulip has had a wonderful time to dry, and it has smoothed in real nice. So what I'm going to do now is take this guy back off of the base of the jig that I've got set up so that I can lay it back on its back, and continue some more work around the edging of the saucer. Okay, time for one big last showy decal for the day, I think, and that's going to be that guy right there. I've been nipping at these all day. I need to go back and touch the paint in between them, but I really want to get something showy done today. That was a little tedious work, and I have to balance that with nice big stuff. So let's do this big decal. And there you go, all shiny and new. Just put a little bit of the old micro set on top of it. let that dry, and then we will be ready to flat coat the top, I think. I tried touching up the paint here, but the paint doesn't want to stick to the gloss coat as well. I think it's that Tamiya thing. It just beads up. It doesn't want to stick. So I think what I need to do is to let the decals dry, like I said, and then flat coat it. And that'll give the paint, or that'll give the surface a little bit more tooth, and the paint can stick to it. And then I can gloss coat over the areas I need to on this rim, like right in here where the thruster covers go, because they kind of wrap around the top and the bottom of the saucer. So I want to, obviously I can't put them on now while I'm still working on the saucer edge. So I need to let this set up, and then I can come back and work on this edge a little bit more. But that's really what we're down to, working on this edge and some windows on the neck, and we're darn close to done. The base is, I would say, 99.7% done. It's in the other room. This, of course, needs to get a unifying flat coat to finish it once it's all ready to go, but touching up these rims, and I think I'm not going to know the final result on that until I hook it back up to power, put it on the base and hook it back up to power, and that way I can test the light leakage and the light blockage here. But yeah, we're coming down to the finish line here. Yay, not a minute too soon. Alrighty then, it is Friday. It is the last work day of the week. It is the last day on the Galaxy class ship. Now I am always, I think, till the day I die, going to be picking at windows and doing little things on this kit. But for all practical purposes, this is the last work day. I've got a bare handful, a bare scant number of decals left to go on. The big job for today is going to be painting in this rim. I've got the tulip is set up overnight. I've got a little bit of epoxy sculpt, just go backing in and redefining some characteristics that got wiped away in all of the sanding, and I am doing some last minute work on the neck, trying to clean up some of those lines. Again, very tiny, very picky work. And then the last thing to do will be to put on those last decals and then hit it with a good clear coat. But it is, for all intents and purposes, it is done. Now, what I need to do before I can sign off on it completely, though, is I need to finish painting and cleaning up around the impulse engines, and like I said, this rim again, and then I need to hook it up to power so I can see just how badly some of these light leaks need to be patched, and then hit that with a top coat, and it will be done. Like I said, this is a career for me as far as touching windows. I will be doing this for years to come. It will probably be worked on off and on as I, go in and want to clean up a bank of windows here or there. But I really want to be done with this today and get onto the Katinga, get onto some new projects. And you probably will not see the final of this until maybe Wonderfest. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to enter it in Wonderfest. I might take it just to show. But there are so many technical errors that I've created on this that I wouldn't judge it. I would judge it on the audacity of doing it, but I wouldn't judge it on how technically well done it is, because there are so many glaring mistakes. But that's just me. So let's get on with this. I've found this very helpful to keep it on its side like this while I am working on it, because it has become more and more impractical to work on, and it's sort of like, leaning on your back and painting the Sistine Chapel. It is, or the Christine Chapel, given the lineage of this ship, that it becomes harder and harder to get your little brush into where it needs to go. So I'm talking when I should be painting. Let's get back to painting. Okay, it's Friday mid-afternoon, and we're coming up on wanting to get done with this today. So I want to put these last tiny bit of decals on the ship, and then whatever's left I can paint around. So I've sprayed the parts that I need to, or the areas of the ship that I want to put decals on with a little bit of a satin coat to get a nice smooth surface underneath. And now I'm going to, like I say, going to attack these last handful of decals, and then let that dry, and then give it a good flat coat. Alrighty, now the last of the decals are on. The little registries and the thrusters up there, things like that. And so for the intents and purposes of this build series, I have completed. So what I'm going to do is let's see, oh, I got some time. I'm not worried about running out of time yet today. So I'll give this about 20 minutes, half an hour for all of this to dry, and then I'll try to hit it with a clear coat and get it on the stand to light it up so that we can get a final picture of what the whole thing looks like. Maestro, a little appropriate music please, but dun dun dun, yes. As I've said, I will be picking at this until the end of time, but for all intents and purposes, it's done. I will be touching windows on this forever, but there's the strobes that are still remaining. Pour one out for my homie right there, but I don't think you ever saw the belly strobe, the one that's under here. That survived, and the two strobes at the bottom of the nacelles, that survived. That's the beauty shot right there, probably. Love the bottom of that saucer. Now, yes, that's a problem, and I'm going to probably go in and paint those windows out. That's always... Ooh, I don't like that. I'm going to touch that paint up. Yeah, I'm seeing things now with the lights on it that I would fix if I could. And a lot of these windows don't get the attention or the love that they should. But some of them do. These ones here were a nice surprise. They turned out nicely. And these ones up front turned out nicely. Try it with no lights on at all. There you go. And you do see the shadow of this phaser strip. But you do see these guys. And none of the windows are particularly clean, but they're all there. And now you can see the ones here above the I guess the shuttle bay. Still some windows, these ones turned out particularly nice, but there's still some on the side of the neck that I need to clean out and peck those out. But the ones on the body here turned out fine. And the warp engines turned out fine. It's only the red and green nav lights that are the big cumbersome things. I really like those four windows right there. I think that's turned out just nice. Now, trying to get the, let's see if I hit these just right, try to get the photon to light up. Well, that's the top. Okay, and I'll see if I can do this on to get the photon to show up. There you go. Maybe one more time here. There you go. Okay. And I didn't talk that much about it, but here's the base, and I can set those colors to be going all around. Okay. And well, what a long, strange trip this has been. This is where we're going to leave it. We're going to leave it
I'd say 97.3% done. Like I said, I'll be picking at windows until I'm old and gray, or older and grayer. But this is the best place, I think, to call it a day. Call it a ship. Break a little bottle of champagne over it and launch it out. I'd like to do this one all over again. There are some kits when you work on them, it's like, geez, I get that behind me. I don't want to ever have to look at that again. I'd like to take another crack at this. There are certain rules or axioms to building models. Clear models are always a pain. Garage kits are never a safe bet. You certainly wouldn't want to put the two together, and this is a clear cast garage kit. But I think I could do it better the second time. I learned a hell of a lot on this. Everything from going back to doing the welding on the armature to begin with, which I still stand by. It may have been a little bit of overkill, but you know, better too much kill than not kill enough. So starting with that, planning the how it's going to hang, how it's going to be wired, all of that. Regrets? Oh yeah, I got more than a few on this. Looking back on it, what would I do differently? I probably would have skipped at least 2 coats of paint on this. I think the biggest thing I did wrong was to overpaint it. I put way too many coats of paint on it because I was insecure about light blocking. Now these windows, where there's not supposed to be any light coming out, there's no light coming out. The paint that's on there is light blocking very well, but it could have been, I could have avoided it, which would have meant the windows probably would have come out cleaner, peeled up cleaner. I found that when I did the corrections and the repairs on the saucer here, I didn't put all of the layers back down, and it still worked out just fine. So yeah, I probably could have skipped at least 2 layers of paint. I think the gray primer, which I always put on, gray primer, and then I think I put 2 coats of gray primer, then a black coat, and then the French blue coat, and then started the top coats with the color, the grays and the blue. I would have skipped that black coat. I would have skipped probably the second gray coat. I would have, if I had to do this all over again. I still like the French blue coat only because it was that much closer to the final colors, and I didn't have to put the top colors on as heavily. So I would have gone from blue primer, or from gray primer to French blue to top coats. I would have knocked out a couple different coats of paint. What else would I have done any differently? Can't think of too many things because I think, and the steps that I took in the order that I took them were pretty much right. Would I have used as much magnet wire? I don't know. That's where I think, well, certainly it's the reason I lost the strobe up top was because of the magnet wire. Would I have put as much lights in it? Yeah, I think the number of lights that I put in it, the number of strip lighting and all that, I think that was sufficient. I mean, I'm surprised at how dim these outer rim lights are. I thought I would get much better transmission of light out to the edge. You know, for every place that I was trying to block light that it wouldn't go, I'm kind of surprised that it didn't go where I thought it would obviously go. So there you go. The problems I had with this area back in here, joining the pylons to the base, those were all problems of my doing. I should have taken more care with that. From experience, I can tell you, wash your parts. Wash your parts, and when you don't think you've washed them enough, you have not washed them enough. Wash them again. Let's see. The templates worked out fine. In theory, in practice, they're there. And the color choices, I don't know if I'd have gone as blue. I know the actual kit is, or the actual filming model, it has a lot of blue in it. I think I would be more tempted to go into perception rather than reality, and made this more of a grayer, make the blue a little bit grayer and make the gray a little bit whiter. I think I would have shifted it just that much. Knowing now how the lifeboats look against it, I think I might have gone a little bit more gray with the color and a little bit less with the blue. But barring that, blocking the light for the markers, it would be a tricky question at best, because if you put a metal tube down there, which is something I had thought of, jacketing that with a metal tube, then the SMLEDs would have shorted out against it, because they're wired. Imagine this is the SMLED. The wires sit like this on either side of it. So I would have had to, those would have shorted out against the tube. I would have had to have made the tube even bigger to accommodate that. And I think we'd have just gotten into the range where I might as well have used regular big LEDs, and those would have just looked out of scale. So I'm not sure that there's a win-win situation for that. Like I said, I'm going to go back and black out those windows so that you don't get that spill. I've made comments to Don about the kit parts that I think could be improved. I still stand by making that joint last and joining the frame together with that. Surprisingly, one thing I was dreading, and I know I shouldn't have been, but I was dreading, was whether or not these pylons were going to sag. They have not. They've held up tremendously in the 9 weeks since I've had them together. It's been almost 2 months, and they've not done any sagging whatsoever. I might have been tempted to do something with the engines to maybe prime those before I glued them down, so that I could get the primer up under them, more effectively. I was in a rush. I wanted to see this thing starting to get built, so I was in a rush. There are some paint cancers on here other than the piece that you saw that I repaired. There are some other paint cancers going on that I should have taken time to fix, but I didn't, because I was in a hurry to see this thing done. That's why I'm saying I wouldn't mind taking another crack at this to see if I could do those and do it better justice. But that's it. Hope you enjoyed the last 12 or 11 weeks. Look again next time. I'm going to start another fun project. And until then, be good to each other, and remember, all good things must come to an end. And so must this video. So see you next time.